In the heart of Texas lies a stretch of land with a chilling name, the Killing Fields. For over 5 decades, this desolate corridor along Interstate 45 has been a hunting ground. Dozens of girls and young women have vanished here, their lives cut short by murder. Who is responsible for the I-45 killings, and why, after all this time, have they never truly been caught? It's a question that haunts the soul of the Lone Star State. Interstate 45 stretches 51 miles between Houston and Galveston, a journey through refinery stacks, strip malls, and swampy pine forests. For most, it's a simple commute, but for investigators and heartbroken families, it's a sprawling crime scene. Since 1971, the tally of victims has climbed relentlessly. More than 30 young women have either disappeared or been found dead, their last known locations often just a stone's throw from the I-45. The faces change, but the pattern remains. Vulnerable girls, often caught in difficult circumstances, were targeted and then discarded. The highway earned a local nickname, the Highway to Hell. It's a place where everyday journeys can end in unimaginable tragedy, leaving a trail of grief and unanswered questions. The terror began in November of 1971. Colette Wilson, just 13 years old, stepped off her school bus, waved goodbye and vanished. Months later, her body was discovered near a bayou. She had been shot in the head. The community was stunned. Weeks after Colette's discovery, another young life was stolen. 14-year-old Brenda Jones disappeared while walking to a babysitting job. Her remains were later found on a Galveston beach. By 1974, headlines whispered of a possible maniac, but the term serial killer was still considered too sensational for the time. The cases weren't connected by a terrified public or the authorities. Each girl was a standalone tragedy, not yet recognised as part of a larger, sinister mosaic. This left the killer free to continue unseen by a fractured system. Fast forward to 1983. The bedroom community of League City, just south of Houston, was booming, but just off the main road, a dirt path named Calder Road snaked through a rugged, forgotten corner of the countryside, past horse pastures and rusted pump jacks. One day, a dog walker noticed something pale against the dark bark of a tree. It was Heidi Fye, a 23-year-old bartender who had vanished months earlier after using a payphone. Her body lay naked, her arms meticulously folded across her chest, as if she had been posed. Detectives descended on the scene, but the trail went cold and the file on Heidi Fye's murder slipped to the bottom of the pile. They had no idea this same patch of brush would eventually give up the remains of 3 more women. 16-year-old Laura Miller lived just a mile from where Heidi Fye's body was discovered. The story unnerved her, yet one night she walked to that same payphone to call her boyfriend. Laura never came home. Search parties combed the fields. Laura's father, Tim Miller, begged police to search every inch of Calder Road, convinced his daughter was there, but they told him a father's gut instinct wasn't enough evidence to justify such a massive search. 2 agonising years crawled by. Then, in February of 1986, Laura's remains were found less than 50 yards from where Heidi Fye had been discovered. The scene was sickeningly similar, the same posture, the same nakedness. The community stopped using the word coincidence. This was a pattern, this was terror, and for Tim Miller, it was the beginning of a lifelong crusade for justice. With Laura Miller's discovery, detectives could no longer deny they were dealing with a serial killer, but the tools to catch such a monster were, by modern standards, primitive. DNA science was in its infancy. They had bones, hair, and not much else. Then, the fields off Calder Road gave up 2 more secrets. One body surfaced in 1986, just months after Laura, and another in 1991. Both women were found posed in the same ritualistic way, naked, arms folded, and tragically, both lacked any identification. For 3 decades, they were known only as Jane Doe and Janet Doe. silent witnesses to a predator who stalked the edges of civilization. Then, in 2019, a breakthrough came from forensic science. A technique known as genetic genealogy offered new hope. Parabon Nanolabs took on the challenge, running genetic profiles on the degraded samples and building family trees to find a match. And it worked. The nameless became named. Jane Doe, found in 1986, was identified as Audrey Lee Cook, a 30-year-old mechanic who had lost touch with her family. Janet Doe, discovered in 1991, was Donna Gonsolan Prudhomme, a 34-year-old mother fleeing an abusive relationship. Donna was last seen at a bar along I-45. Audrey was last spotted at a convenience store off the same exit. Both were vulnerable and both may have accepted a ride from a stranger. The families finally had burials and names to etch on headstones, but the killer remained nameless. The Calder Road clearing is just one patch in a much larger forest of sorrow. The I-45 corridor is a grim mosaic of disappearances and deaths that paint an even more disturbing picture. Between 1979 and 1983 alone, at least 7 teenagers vanished from the seawall in Galveston. In 1985, 13-year-old Crystal Jean Baker was found strangled beneath a bridge. In 1996, 12-year-old Laura Smither went for a jog in her Friendswood neighbourhood and never returned. Her body was later found in a retention pond. The tally climbs to over 30, and likely many more. These cases span different jurisdictions, handled by different police departments, yet they all share that same ominous corridor. The common denominators are stark: youth, femininity, and that relentless ribbon of asphalt that is RC45. It's a pattern that screams for answers and for an end to the terror. Over the decades, names of potential suspects surfaced, but the path to justice has been riddled with dead ends. Edward Bell, a convicted killer, boasted from prison of 11 little Heidi's, a grotesque reference to Heidi Fye, but he died before he could be definitively linked to the murders. Michael Self, a Galveston bar owner, confessed to some of the crimes, but then recanted, claiming police coercion. The case against him crumbled, and he died in 2000. Clyde Hedrick owned property near Calder Road, but DNA tests failed to connect him to the killings. Investigators were left with fragments, partial profiles, tyre tracks, and a single boot print. What they've always needed is that one person who remembers something, whose secret might finally unlock decades of torment. Why have these cases remained unsolved? It's a perfect storm of systemic failure, geography, and neglect. The I-45 corridor cuts across 4 counties, and in the early days, dozens of siloed police departments failed to share information. Physical evidence, often collected without modern protocols, sat degrading in hot, humid storage units for decades. We also can't ignore that many victims' working-class families lacked the resources to demand sustained media and police attention. And finally, there's the geography itself. The region, with its swampy terrain and countless oil roads, was a predator's dream. Bodies could vanish for months or years. By the time remains surfaced, witnesses had moved away or died. The killer bet on the slow decay of evidence and memory. For decades, that bet paid off. But Tim Miller, Laura's dad, refused to let his daughter be forgotten. His grief transformed into action. He founded Texas EquiSearch, a volunteer search and rescue organisation born from his personal tragedy. Since its inception, EquiSearch has become a nationwide beacon of hope, locating hundreds of missing people. Every time another young woman disappears in that cursed corridor, Tim Miller is there, strapping on a flashlight, his face etched with decades of determination. "I refuse to let my daughter be a cold case," he says. It's more than a statement, it's a vow. His personal tragedy has been transmuted into a powerful legacy, ensuring the world remembers. Advances in forensic genealogy mean the next genetic match could finally break these cases. The technology is evolving at an incredible pace, allowing scientists to work with even smaller, more degraded samples of DNA. In 2022, the League City Police Department resubmitted trace evidence to Othram Labs, a private lab specialising in solving the unsolvable. Quietly, detectives have also been collecting new DNA swabs from persons of interest to build a comprehensive genetic picture, eliminating suspects and identifying potential family links to the killer. Murder has no statute of limitations. Investigators believe the killer is still out there, likely between 60 and 80 years old now, probably still living locally. He's someone's neighbour, someone's relative, and someone somewhere knows something. If you grew up along the Gulf Coast, think hard. Did you know someone who was obsessed with the Calder killings? Did a relative or friend act strangely? Did you hear a rumour, a whispered name, or a detail that fell off? Any tiny flicker of memory could be the key. Please don't dismiss it. Call the League City tip line. The links are in the description. Your small piece of information could be the final puzzle piece that gives these women the justice they deserve. Drive down Calder Road today and you'll see new subdivisions swallowing up the old fields. Kids ride scooters where, not so long ago, bones lay hidden. It's a surreal contrast between the vibrant present and the terrifying past. Yet, the earth itself seems to resist forgetting. After a heavy rain, the soil still pushes up poignant reminders, a sherd of a jeans button, a rusted shoelace grommet. They are the earth's receipts, proof that secrets lie buried just beneath the surface. The killer may believe that time has buried his secret, but DNA does not forget, and neither do fathers. The land remembers, the science remembers, and the relentless pursuit of justice ensures that the memory of these women will never fade. More than 50 years of grief and unanswered questions line the I-45 corridor. Heidi, Laura, Audrey, Donna, and dozens more, their names echo in the wind. Their families toast empty chairs at holidays, forever wondering what might have been and what evidence might still sit in a forgotten box. The Texas killing fields are not an abstract story. They are a stark ledger of unfinished justice. Until the names of the murdered are matched by the name of the murderer, every mile of that highway will remain a question mark. If you know something, please say it. Speak before the next young woman trusts the wrong smile on a lonely Texas night and becomes another name on the killing field's tragic roll call.